Hi guys! Last week we talked about compound sentences where two equal ideas were joined together. This week we're going to talk about some dependent phrases. Let me write that down. So a dependent phrase or clause is when you have something that is less important, or sometimes you'll hear this called a subordinate phrase or clause, because of course the root word sub means under, and literally means it's underneath something else in the order of things. So a dependent phrase or a subordinate phrase is not a complete sentence by itself. Instead, it needs to be attached to something else. So let's take a look at this. If I left work early, do I have a subject? Yes. I. Do I have a verb? Yes. Left. What did I leave? I left work, so that's my direct object, and then early would diagram underneath work because it's an adverb describing it. It would dangle under left because it's an adverb describing left. Whew, I shouldn't do these late at night, huh? Okay, so if I have all the parts of a sentence, why is that not a sentence? Because I think we can agree that if you walk up to someone and went, if I left work early, they would look at you and say, and what about it? Because it's not a complete idea. Well, we diagrammed your subject, your verb, your direct object, your adverb. So that only leaves one word, if. And if is what's called a subordinate conjunction. A coordinating conjunction is when you're coordinating two equal ideas. A subordinate conjunction takes an idea, like I left work early. Can we agree that if you had just I left work early, that would be a complete sentence? Because get rid of the word if, and that right there would be a complete sentence. But by adding the word if, we are taking this complete sentence and we are subordinating it. We are saying this is no longer a complete sentence. It must have an idea to attach to. If I left work early, I would lose pay. Now, the part of the sentence that is attached to the subordinate, this becomes the lesser idea, the less important idea. That means that the part that is not subordinated becomes the main idea. A lot of times you will see these abbreviated as the DC, meaning the dependent clause, comma, IC, meaning the independent clause. So this is a DC-IC sentence. These are really nice for a couple of reasons. First of all, you don't have to start the sentence with the subject every time. Because you're starting with subordinating conjunctions, it gives you a little variety in your sentence beginnings. The other reason why this is really nice is because it tells you which of these ideas is important. In this sentence, I would lose pay is the important idea. If I left work early, that is the subordinate or supporting idea. So let's take a look at the next one. When she cheated. What's my subject? She. What did she do? Cheated. What is your subordinating conjunction? When. How do I know it's a subordinating conjunction? Because if you walk up to somebody and say, when she cheated, they're going to go, and would you like to finish your sentence now? It's not a complete idea. And so anything that takes a complete sentence and turns it into not a complete sentence, that's going to be your subordinating conjunction. So you would have to have a comma, and then you would need to have another sentence to attach to. When she cheated, the teacher caught her. Which is the main idea of that sentence? Okay, She cheated has been subordinated. That means this is underneath, which means this is your main idea. Because Percy was so smart, what is your subordinating conjunction? Yep, because. The fact that because is attached to Percy is so smart means that this phrase is what part of a sentence? Yep, that is the dependent clause. The dependent clause is attached to that subordinating conjunction. And I would have to finish it out. Because Percy was so smart, he saved people. Is that a complete sentence or not? Well, of course not. The subject is bus, the, and school are both adjectives that go under bus. What did it do? It broke down. This is actually a compound verb. It takes two words there. And that leaves you with the word after. That is your subordinating conjunction. After the school bus broke down, we had to walk. And that becomes the main idea. Since the hero refused to leave. Right now, you go turn that into a complete sentence. Okay, I'm assuming you put a comma there because the pattern is DC, comma, IC, and then you have to have that IC or complete sentence on the end. Since the hero refused to leave, the villain killed him. I'm feeling particularly dark today, so we had a little killing going on. That is DCIC. So let's take a look at something else that DCICs can do that are a little bit different. You see, in each of these sentences, there really is only one main idea. The main idea, I would lose pay. The main idea, the teacher caught her. The main idea, he saved people. The main idea, we had to walk. The main idea, the villain killed him. And because there's only one main idea, these sentences can actually flip. Because you see, with dependent clauses, there are two patterns. You have that DC, comma, IC. When you've got the dependent clause up front. But I want you to watch what I can do. That's right. I can reverse it because I have a second pattern. IC, DC, period. If you notice, there's no comma here because I already have something that kind of separates the two halves of the sentence. That subordinating word, which is still attached to the subordinate idea, is now at the back, and that pushes the main idea up to the front. So, let's take a look at this one. When she cheated, the teacher caught her. Well, put the main idea up front. The teacher caught her. When she cheated. Now, which of those ideas is subordinate or less important? Yep, we haven't changed which idea is important. We have our subordinating conjunction when. It is attached to the front of she cheated, which means that's my less important idea. And what is my main idea? The teacher caught her. So we flipped the main idea from the back of the sentence here to the front of the sentence. But these two ideas are the same. When she cheated, the teacher caught her. The teacher caught her when she cheated. And if you notice, that comma vanishes. because there's only a comma if you have the dependent clause up front, not if you put the main idea or independent clause first. So how about this one? Because Percy was so smart, he saved people. You go ahead and you write that correctly. Okay, hopefully you went ahead and flipped it with he saved people because Percy was so smart. But there was another correct answer you could have gone for. You always use the full noun the first time you mention it. So here, the first time we mention him is there, and then we can go into he. So really, technically, it should be Percy saved people because he was so smart. Although I'll give you full credit if you left the pronoun where it was. So after the school bus broke down, we had to walk. Fix it. Well, don't fix it. It's right the way it is. But change it from a DC-IC into an IC-DC. Go. Okay, there we go. We had to walk after the school bus broke down. Did you remember that if you put the subordinating conjunction in the middle, you do not have that comma there? So there should be no comma before your subordinating conjunction. Now, which of these two ideas? We had to walk, the school bus broke down. Which is the main idea? Yep, the main idea is the one that does, that is the wrong, I meant to highlight that. Sorry about that. The main idea is the one that does not have the subordinating conjunction in front of it. Here, the subordinating conjunction after is attached to the front of this. The school bus broke down. So that means that the school bus broke down. That is going to be our DC. And our main idea is going to be up here with the IC. Do one more. Since the hero refused to leave, the villain killed him. Okay. Here, you really should change the him into the hero because otherwise we haven't yet mentioned who we've got going on. There is no comma here because we now have an IC-DC structure. But believe it or not, there is still an issue. The villain killed the hero since he refused to leave. Do y'all see the problem with the he? It's a little bit ambiguous which he you're talking about. So really, this should probably be still the noun. The villain killed the hero since the hero refused to leave. But I'm not going to get too picky with your pronouns, not yet. But we do need to talk about another issue when it comes to these subordinate or dependent clauses. Okay, let's take a look at this set. I like you since you are a nice person. What is the subordinating conjunction? Yep, good heavens. I'm trying to cross out instead of highlight. Let me grab the right pen. Since. What word or what phrase is since attached to? Since you're a nice person. Whatever it's attached to, that is your DC, your less important idea. So what is the main idea? I like you. Is this written correctly? Yes, because the pattern is IC, DC. If your independent clause is up front, there is no comma. So that's just fine. How about the next one? I like you because you're a nice person. What is the subordinating conjunction? Because, thank you. So what idea is my less important idea, my DC? Yes, you are a nice person. What is my main idea? I like you. But look what we have here. If you notice, look at how the punctuation changes, going from here to here. I like you because you are a nice person. I like you, therefore, you are a nice person. This is from last week. This is our conjunctive adverb. A conjunctive adverb says these two ideas are equal, but this conjunction is so large it draws more attention to itself, so it tends to emphasize the relationship and maybe a little bit on the back end. This, I like you because you're a nice person, says that this is my important idea and this is my less important idea. So here we've got two equals. Here we've got one main idea and then a dependent clause. So how can I tell whether I should have the punctuation here, which is a semicolon and comma, or the punctuation here, which is nothing at all? Well, your hint is the fact that you only have one main idea, and this dependent clause, like we saw in the last step, can move. So let me try and move it around. If I wanted to turn this sentence here into a DC, IC, how would I do it? All I did was the standard flip-floppies that I've already done. Here's my subordinating conjunction. It's attached to the front of my less important idea, my dependent clause. You then have the comma. You then have the independent clause. Well, how does that help you figure out punctuation? Very simple. Can you flip a conjunctive adverb sentence like this one? Well, let's try it. Therefore, you are a nice person. I like you. What the crap? No, that makes no sense because these are both independent clauses. They are both independent enough to not want to move. A dependent clause, you can order it around. Tell it to go to the front, tell it to go to the back. You can change the order on that. It flip-flops. But a conjunctive adverb sentence, these are both main ideas. They are both stubborn enough that they insist on staying where they are. So this does not flip without ending up with garbledygook that makes no sense. So how do you know if you need a semicolon and a comma, or whether you need no punctuation at all when you've got a fairly large conjunction in the middle? Well, it's very simple. If you can flip-flop that sentence, you have a subordinating conjunction. Subordinates can always be told what to do and where to go. If you have a sentence that cannot flip-flop, you have a conjunctive adverb. Two independent ideas, that requires semicolon and comma. So let's take a look at the next one. In the next one, school ended and all the students went home. What conjunction do we have? Yeah, in this conjunction, I have a fanboys or a coordinating conjunction. In this coordinating conjunction, is it punctuated correctly? Well, a coordinating conjunction means you should, if you are joining two independent clauses, have a comma. So my question is, do I have two independent clauses? School ended. There's my subject, there's my verb. Is that a complete idea? Yes. All the students went home. Students went, where did they go? Home. Is that a complete sentence? Yes, which means I need to have a comma right there. So wow, that is a really bad comma. Let me try that again. Please don't make your commas look like that. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. School ended, therefore all the students went home. How would you punctuate this? I want you to write just this punctuation. Yeah, you cannot flip-flop this. Therefore is one of your conjunctive adverbs. It joins two independent sentences, independent clauses. They do not want to move around, which means up front you need a semicolon and in back you need a comma. How about this? How would you punctuate this sentence? First trick, I would find my conjunction. There it is. My next question is, can it flip-flop? School ended when all the students went home. When all the students went home, school ended. Yes, it flip-flops. If it flip-flops, that means this is a subordinating conjunction. So you've got a dependent clause, and that's your independent. Do I need any punctuation if what I have is the pattern ICDC? The answer to that would be dun 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 dun. No. Okay, try the next one. How would you punctuate this? Find the conjunction between the two ideas. So, can I flip-flop that? Consequently, all the students went home, school ended. No, that doesn't even make sense. If I can't flip-flop it, that means I am joining two independent sentences that refuse to move. If I am joining two independent sentences with a long conjunction, that makes this a conjunctive, don't know why I put an S there. That makes this a conjunctive adverb. What punctuation do I need? Semicolon up front, comma behind. Next one, school ended because all the students went home. How would you punctuate that? Find your conjunction, because. Can it flip-floppy around that conjunction? School ended because all the students went home. Because all the students went home, school ended. Can it flip-flop? Yes. If it flip-flops, that means you only have one main idea. Oh, I really need to stop crossing stuff out when I mean to highlight it. If it flip-flops, that means you only have one main idea, and that this conjunction is subordinating the thing that it's in front of. And that means this is subordinate. This is your independent clause. And if you have ICDC, do you have any punctuation in between? No. So, let's see if you guys can do a little practicing and figure out where you need your punctuation. How are you going to punctuate this one? We start by finding the conjunction. We ask ourselves, can it flippy-floppy? However, he didn't see himself as a writer. Shakespeare wrote many plays. No, it can't flippy-floppy, which means we have two independent clauses. That makes this a conjunctive adverb. Those are the big words that join independent clauses. And that means up front we need a semicolon and in back we need a comma. Let's try another one. How are you going to punctuate this one? Right, always start with the same place. What's your conjunction? Your conjunction here is since. Can it flippy-floppy? Since women weren't allowed on stage, men played all the women. Yes, that makes sense, which means that whatever this this is your subordinating conjunction. Flippy-floppies are created by subordinating conjunctions. The subordinate is whatever the subordinating conjunction is in front of. So this is my less important idea. This is my main idea, my independent clause. And if I have ICDC, guess what? I don't need anything in the middle. Let's try another one. When Shakespeare died, his friends published his plays in a folio. Now at this point, it's like, wait, where's my conjunction? I have Shakespeare died, and then I have friends published. What did they publish? His plays, and then we've got a prepositional phrase. What the heck? I've got a sentence that goes straight into a sentence. Well, that doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. Where is your dang conjunction? Your conjunction is right here. Remember that conjunction goes in front of the less important idea, the dependent clause. What is it attached to? It's attached to this idea. So that is our dependent clause. Our main idea is right here. His friends published the plays in a folio. What punctuation do I need? Well, to separate the DC From the IC, I must have a comma. And that's why you end up with two different rules. You have ICDC, and that doesn't require a comma because you have that subordinating word in the middle that makes it clear where you have this dividing line between main idea and supporting detail. But here, when you have the DC up front and then the IC, you end up that these two ideas kind of run together. And if you're reading quickly, it's very hard to find where that break happens. That's why it's DC, comma, IC. Are you ready to try some more? Give these a try. How'd you do on this one? Here you got another one. Hopefully you got those two right. If you didn't, you may want to review your rules before you go and do your third. Awesome Lapossum, once more, prove to me that you can punctuate this stuff correctly. Awesome. Now, let's talk about a different kind of dependent phrase or clause. This is a special kind of detail called an appositive. An appositive is a definition, one that starts with a noun, and it defines whatever word it's closest to. You see, bad writers are going to have definition sentences. They'll say things like, Romeo is the oldest son. Romeo struggles with depression. And then they end up sounding very sing-songy and repetitive, and it's just bad writing. The rule in English is you should never have a definition sentence. Because English has this structure, the appositive structure, that allows you to always slip a definition right after the word you're trying to define. The definition is almost always set off by commas, but if you're really trying to draw a lot of attention to that definition and you're going, woohoo, this definition here is important, you can actually use dashes. Okay, so here, King Lear, a fictional king, betrayed his daughter Cordelia. You actually have two different appositives here. The appositive is the definition that comes right after a noun. So, how are we defining King Lear? Well, King Lear is defined as a fictional king. King Lear betrayed his daughter. How is his daughter defined? Well, daughter is defined as Cordelia. But now I'm going to drive you a little crazy. King Lear, comma, a fictional king, comma, betrayed his daughter Cordelia. No comma. If an appositive is like one word, very short, and right next to whatever it's defining, that comma becomes optional. You can have it if you really want to set that off, or you can leave it out. Now, what if I wanted to emphasize that Lear is a fictional king, that this is not one of Shakespeare's historical plays? Although, to be perfectly honest, his histories, those kings are kind of fictional too. Shakespeare makes that crap up. However, if I want to really draw attention to the definition, instead of using commas, I can say King Lear, dash, a fictional king. Oh, geez, my pen is giving me grief. Dash, betrayed his daughter. Now, I want to really kind of set off her name. I think it's important that it's not his daughter Goneril. It's not his daughter Regan. His daughter, Cordelia. Both of these sentences are correct. No comma, comma. But they are doing different things. First of all, if you're trying to do a dash and you're typing, you have to hit that hyphen twice. If you do it once, you're wrong, because this is what's called an M dash. It has to be longer. And it's called an M dash because it's different than an N dash, which is the short one, because it's how long it is. An M is longer than an N, and you want the dash that's as long as the letter M, not the short one that's like the letter N. So you have to hit that hyphen twice to get an M dash. But the differences here are significant. The dash means that this definition is more important than this one, which is only set off by commas. So a more important definition is going to get bigger punctuation to draw more attention to it. It's kind of like, shouting a little louder, but it's the grammar equivalent of shouting. Here, on the second half, daughter Cordelia, when it's all run together, it's not emphasizing that it's this daughter. It's saying, look, his daughter Cordelia. Here, it's saying his daughter. Cordelia, that one, that daughter. That punctuation inserts a pause, and that pause puts more emphasis on the fact that it's Cordelia versus any other daughter. You do not put a comma anywhere you want to pause. You're going to screw up your grammar that way. However, the opposite is true. You don't put a comma anywhere you pause, but anywhere you put a comma, if it's read out loud, that forces a pause. And so if you want the reader to pause and to really reflect on the fact that it's Cordelia, you can put the comma there. But it is entirely optional. What is not optional is you cannot mix and match this punctuation. So you can't have a comma in front and an M dash behind. What mad world does that make any sense in? So, do me a favor. I want you to write me a sentence about one of your teachers. And I want you to use an appositive to define which teacher you're talking about. So in the definition, you may put the name. In the definition, you may put what they teach. But I am looking for this structure where I see both a noun and a definition of that noun. Go write me a sentence with an appositive. Okay, are there other kinds of dependent phrases and clauses? Yes, there are who phrases, that phrases, which phrases. But this is getting a little long, so I'm going to let you go with this one. And hopefully you are now able to give me some nice dependent clauses and appositive phrases. See you soon.